Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going beyond those everyday business phrases you hear, like win-win or zero sum.
Right. Things people say all the time without maybe knowing the deeper structure behind them.
Exactly. We're digging into where they actually come from. Game theory.
A really powerful analytical tool.
Our mission here is to show you how business isn't, just random actions. It's more like a dynamic game.
Yeah, a strategic one where what you do, what your competitors do, even what your customers do, it's all linked. Your success depends on their choices too.
And the goal isn't just defining terms. We want to help you get a really disciplined, structured way to think.
To anticipate things, understand the dynamics.
And maybe even shape those competitive or cooperative situations you find yourself in.
We'll start with the basics, the fundamentals, and then look at how smart leaders use this stuff.
How they don't just play the game they're given, but sometimes change the game itself. Let's unpack it.
It's fascinating because game theory isn't just like a general idea. It's actually a formal mathematical way to study interaction.
Mathematical, so like numbers and equations.
Well, yeah, at its core. It looks at how rational people or companies make decisions when their results depend on what others decide.
Okay.
And it really goes back to John von Neumann and Oscar Morgenstern. They wrote this really key book back in 1944.
Theory of Games and Economic Behavior, that one.
That's the one. The foundation.
So, okay, whether it's something simple like flipping a coin or, a huge corporate merger, every strategic game seems to have some basic building blocks. What are those core bits we need to spot?
Absolutely. You've got the players, first off.
Mm-hmm.
These are the decision makers, companies, individuals, whoever's involved.
Okay, players. Makes sense.
Then you have strategies. And this isn't just one move. It's like a complete plan of action for any situation that might come up.
A whole game plan. Got it.
And finally, the payoffs. What does each player actually get? It could be profit, market share, whatever. And that depends on the combination of strategies everyone chooses.
Right. Players, strategies, payoffs. And the classic example people always bring up is the prisoner's dilemma, isn't it?
It really illustrates that interdependence perfectly.
Yeah, you've got two prisoners, right?
Yeah.
Kept separate.
Uh-huh. And they each get a deal.
Confess, implicate the other guy, and you walk free while he gets, say, 10 years.
But if you both confess,
You both get 5 years.
and if you both stay silent,
then it's just 1 year each, which seems like the best collective outcome.
it does. But here's the twist, the paradox.
For each prisoner thinking only about themselves, confessing looks like the better option no matter what the other one does.
Exactly. If the other stays silent, confessing gets you freedom instead of 1 year. If the other confesses, confessing gets you 5 years instead of 10.
So individually rational choices lead to a worse outcome for the group, it feels.
Yeah, counterintuitive. It really does. And that's where this idea of the Nash Equilibrium comes in, named after John Nash, of course.
Right, the mathematician.
Yeah. It describes a situation, a stable state, where basically no player can do better by just changing their own strategy, assuming everyone else stays put.
So in the prisoner's dilemma, the Nash equilibrium is...
Both confessing. Because if you're one prisoner and you know the other's confessing, your best move is also to confess. Same logic applies to the other prisoner. Neither can improve their situation alone.
even though they'd both be better off if they could somehow agree to stay silent.
Precisely. Which leads us to a really important distinction.
Understanding that equilibrium, that predictable outcome, kind of sets up the next idea, right? That not all games are the same.
Exactly. You've got zero-sum games.
Okay, what's that?
Think of chess or poker, maybe. It's a fixed pot. Whatever one player wins.
The other player loses. Exactly that amount.
Right. My gain is your loss. But honestly, most business situations, they're not like that. They're non-zero-sum, meaning the total pie isn't fixed. The player's actions can actually make the pie bigger or smaller for everyone involved.
So you can have win-win situations.
You can. Or, unfortunately, you can also have lose-lose outcomes, like a really nasty price war where everyone's profits get destroyed.
Okay, so understanding that difference is huge for leaders. It means shifting your view.
Definitely. Moving from just thinking about my company, my strengths, that's the egocentric view,
To what you call an allocentric perspective.
yes. Seeing the game through everyone else's eyes. What are their incentives? What are they likely to do? How do their choices affect my best move?
And that's not just about being nice or empathetic.
Oh, no, not at all. It's cold, hard, strategic analysis. Understanding the other players is critical to figuring out your own best strategy.
Which brings us to co-opetition, that blend you mentioned.
Exactly. Recognizing that you often cooperate and compete with the same players at the same time. Think about the GM credit card example.
Right, they introduced a card offering rebates on cars.
Seemed competitive, right? But it actually helped GM because it made their customers a bit less obsessed with just the sticker price. It stabilized things.
And then Ford copied it.
Yeah, and they benefited too.
Yeah.
And arguably the whole U.S. auto industry did because it shifted competition away from just pure price cuts, potentially raising profits for everyone. A kind of win-win built on understanding the game.
But what if you want to do more than just, react well within the existing game?
Now you're getting to the really advanced stuff.
Can you actually change the rules?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
The best strategists don't just play the game they find, they actively try to shape it. They become game architects.
How do you even start thinking about that?
Well, there's a useful framework called PARTS. It stands for players, added values, rules, tactics, and scope.
Okay, parts. So you can change who the players are, bring in new ones.
Or change their incentives.
Yeah.
Think about added value. How much value do you uniquely bring? Can you increase it? Rules are a big one.
Changing the rules of the game. Like how?
Remember the carbon dioxide example?
Yeah.
Producers use these meet the competition clauses in their contracts.
Uh-huh. Meaning if a competitor offered a lower price, they'd match it.
Right. Which sounds competitive, but what it actually did was remove the incentive for anyone to start a price cut because they knew everyone else would just match it instantly. No advantage gained.
So it stabilized prices. They effectively changed the rules of pricing in their industry.
Exactly. By changing a rule, they reshaped the payoffs and made the environment more predictable, potentially more profitable for everyone involved.
Okay, that's powerful. But game theory, it's not magic, right? It must have limits when you apply it to the real world, which is messy.
Oh, definitely. That's a really important point. Classical game theory makes some big assumptions.
Like everyone being perfectly rational, always acting purely to maximize their own gain.
Precisely. But real people. We have biases, emotions. We operate with what they call bounded rationality. We're not perfect calculating machines.
And what about the payoffs? Can you always put a hard number on things like reputation or trust?
That's another challenge. Quantifying intangible payoffs is, well, tricky. Plus, classical theory often assumes everyone knows everything, complete information.
Which is almost never true in business. There are always secrets, uncertainties.
Right. Information asymmetry is the norm.
So, given these limitations, the rationality thing, quantifying payoffs, imperfect information, does that mean game theory isn't actually that useful in practice?
No, not at all.
Huh.
Actually, these limitations are what have pushed the field forward.
How so?
Well, you now have things like behavioral game theory, which brings in psychology to account for those biases.
Ah, okay.
And there are tools, like Bayesian games, specifically designed to handle situations with incomplete information. So the limitations haven't killed game theory, they've made it evolve.
So wrapping up then, what's the big takeaway?
I'd say game theory gives you this disciplined language, almost like math, to break down these really complex webs of decisions in business, where everything depends on everything else.
And it forces that shift in perspective.
Absolutely. From just me, the egocentric view, to what about them, the allocentric view. Seeing the game through others' eyes is crucial.
It also highlights that most business isn't strictly win-lose.
Exactly. Recognizing most situations are non-zero sum opens up possibilities for cooperation, for finding those win-win or co-opetition strategies, and remembering that the really savvy players don't just accept the game.
They use things like that parts framework to try and change it, to architect a better game.
They shape their environment.
Mm-hmm.
But we should also acknowledge the limits we discussed. The human element, the fuzzy information. It's not a perfect crystal ball.
So it sounds like it's both a science with its rigor and structure.
And an art in how you actually apply it in messy, real-world situations.
It makes you ask smarter questions about your environment, which leads to a final thought for you, the listener.
Building on that idea of shaping the game.
What does all this mean for you? Think about your own situation. What game are you actually playing right now? And more importantly, how might you be able to change its rules to your advantage?